Most nice guys aren't actually that nice. What they're looking for is validation, hoping that if they do everything right, play it safe, somebody somewhere out there will finally give them a chance. But the world doesn't reward safe players. It rewards those who know how to take control. You either choose yourself or you wait around hoping another person chooses you. Your life is already in your hands. The thing is, you keep making excuses and giving up your power. Now I'm going to show you in this video some of the darkest, most psychological, powerful techniques you can use to finally get what you want, sell anything, and move through life on your own terms. And if you don't learn how to use these strategies, or at least learn how to protect yourself from them, you're always going to be at the mercy of those who do. Now, the first thing you need to understand about how the world works is that everything is a scam. Now, in every industry, there are going to be businesses that will sell you things that aren't necessarily ethical or things you don't need. And what's crazy about it is that they know how to cover their tracks perfectly, so you just end up a consumer. So let me give you some examples of exactly what I mean. Now, recently, as you know, there has been a lot of talks with the US and tariffs globally. And what's been happening is that Chinese manufacturers are coming out and they're letting the world know that a lot of these luxury brands are actually made in China. So these products are made in China by these highly skilled Chinese people working at these factories. And when it's about 80-90% done, they ship the final product over to places like Paris or Italy. And they finally put the stamp and the packaging and they sell it as made in Paris, made in Italy. Now, would you consider this a scam? Not necessarily, because, technically by the rules, they're playing it safe. It's not illegal to do. However, from the consumer's perspective, they're buying something that they had thought, oh, it's handcrafted in Italy. That's why it's so expensive. But in fact, it's that story that creates that high perceived value, which allows these luxury brands to have extremely high profit margins and just basically profit off of people's desires to show off. The way people sell luxury products is they make you feel like you're not enough, right? It's like money is not enough. Once you have money, you have to go then spend money on these bags and watches and whatever in order to show other people that you're rich. So it's like almost like a double scam if you think about it. And what's so genius about it is that their PR and their marketing and their way they're making people believe in these ideas is so powerful and so in our mainstream culture that we just accept it without really thinking too much. A lot of young, successful people out there, they think the first thing I'm going to do when I make it is buy a Rolex, right? But why do we think that? Why are we giving up our money away to buy a product that is maybe only costs $700 to make, but it might cost you $10,000 to buy? So is this inherently evil? Not necessarily. But the way I would look at it is if you look at every single business from the lens of it is potentially a scam, maybe they're doing a lot of gray things, you'll start to realize that pretty much every major business is doing these kinds of things. If you look at, let's say, the beauty industry, if you sell products like beauty and makeup and maybe surgery that, enhances your face or body or whatever it is, they're basically saying you're not enough. In order to be more liked in society, you should become more beautiful. And we just accept that as if that's normal culture. You can even look at video games as well. I know personally, because I used to be addicted to video games make money by keeping you in the game as long as possible and getting you to buy these skins that don't really matter, to be honest. But the way they'll market it is that it's a community. It's like normal to spend 10 hours a day on your computer just sitting on your ass. Now, all these things aren't necessarily scams, like I was saying, but they are manipulative. And they definitely are taking advantage of consumers and their customers while creating the perception that they are doing the right thing. So how you apply this into your life and whatever it is that you're doing or selling is you want to look at your product and service and company almost from the lens of a scam. It's not saying you are a scam, but you need to know what's possible, because the reality is in any industry you're playing in, people are playing that game. So if you are the most evil and you had no ethics and you're okay with lying and you don't have no consequence of going to jail, what would you do? What would you say? How would you sell your thing? Then you'll come up with all these crazy ideas of like what you could potentially do. Now you add a filter of ethics of, okay, these are things you can do, but what's right and wrong? And once you add these filters, you'll filter the ideas and you'll come up with some of the best ideas you can to sell something ethically. So it doesn't mean you have to participate in the way people do this kind of business, but you will come up with some of the best ideas in order to get someone to buy. Now, instead of just targeting the consumers, let's switch gears and I'm going to show you how to eliminate your competition. Now, competition comes from when people sell essentially the same thing, whether it's a product and service. So if you're in an industry where there's a lot of competition, there's going to be people who are much more ahead of you and more established, and there's going to be a lot of people who are under you who are trying to take your spot. So how is it that you eliminate them from the minds of your consumer? Because you're not going to be better, right? That's going to be a race to the bottom, and your product and services are going to be commoditized and everyone's going to compete on price. So the first lesson is trying to be better will not make you better. You're never going to be better than the best, right? Because they're perceived as the industry leader, especially if you're not number one. So how do you be perceived as better? And that is, different is actually better. So the way you beat your competition is not by directly competing against them. It's by showing the market that you are different and unique. And the way the human mind works is that if they perceive something as different, unique, oh, that's special, suddenly they're going to think of you as better. Now, it's a human fallacy. It's not necessarily true that you're better. It could be that your services are even worse than the next guy. But because you're perceived as different, they will believe you are better. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're selling a coaching service and there's other people in the industry who are doing the same exact thing you're doing. Let's say Tony Robbins, right? He's like motivating people, he's setting goals, all that kind of things. And you're doing something similar. So how are you going to compete against Tony Robbins? Because he's been doing it for decades and you maybe just started last year. And here's how you do it. When somebody compares you to someone like Tony Robbins and they say, oh, well, if I just join Tony's program, then, it's going to be way better, right? Like, he's been in the industry much longer. So what you want to do is first you want to calm down and you just unfazed by it. And you say, okay, I totally hear what you're saying. Now, do you mind if I share with you why I think we're a little bit different from maybe what the other guys are doing? Yeah, sure. Sounds good. Okay. Well, if you do work with someone who's really big and has been in the industry for decades, if you go through the program, what are the chances that that specific person is going to have one-on-one time with you? They'll say, oh, well, because they're so big, unless I'm going to pay $100,000, I probably won't be able to one-on-one talk with them. Okay, so what is this program really? Is it just an online course and they're going to hire, some random coach that you've never talked to somehow achieve your goals? And then they're going to be like, that's kind of true, right? If I join their program, I don't even know what kind of coach I'm getting. So you can come back and say, yes, sure. I haven't been in the industry for decades like this other person, but, I've been in the industry for at least, 1 or 2 years now. Here are the client results that I got. And because I'm on the come up, I'm trying my absolute best to build a program specifically for your needs to achieve your results. And it's not going to be another coach that I outsource to another person. It's going to be me. You're going to have my direct line. You can call me anytime. We're going to have meetings weekly to make sure that you actually achieve your goals. So when you stack those two side by side, you can kind of understand why what I'm offering is, I'm not saying it's better than the next person, but it's going to be different. And personally, in my opinion, that one-on-one time with me is probably more likely to achieve your goals compared to, let's say, a random coach that you don't even know. Is that fair? And so what happens is they're going to think, yeah, that totally makes sense, right? So if they're thinking I'm going to be better than the random coach that they get at this larger company, then it's going to be a good deal for them. And so let's say the prospect says, oh, well, what's the difference between you and the other guy? Because, the other guy's really personal and I really like him. I would say, okay, look, I get it. If you want to work with the smaller guy because he's willing to put so much time into, helping you achieve your goals, I totally understand that. Now, where we are a little bit different is we have 3 decades of experience. We know exactly what works. We know exactly what's working. We've coached some of the highest performers in all of history over the last 30 years. And our expert coaches have been trained literally for years and have gotten results for some of the best athletes and business and high business performers that you've ever seen. So I'm highly confident that sure, the guy that, you're talking about, I'm sure he's going to get great results, but we have 30 years of experience and a bulletproof blueprint that if you just follow, I'm absolutely sure you're going to hit your goals. And plus, it's not about how much time one puts into coaching. In fact, the worse coach they are, the more time they have to put in. We're more like a sniper. We know exactly what you're doing. We know exactly how we're going to get you to your goals. And so really, all it's going to take is 1 hour of coaching every single week, one-on-one time with our expert coaches, and you will get to where you want to go. Does that sound fair? So when this person's comparing the two options, clearly they're gonna, be more attracted to the large company where it feels more likely that they're gonna achieve the goal. So it doesn't matter if you're bigger, it doesn't matter if you're smaller, there's always a way to kill your competition in the minds of your consumer. And once you start getting some buy-in from your customers, the next step is actually negotiating like a pro. The first thing you need to understand about negotiations is that everybody is lying to you. Okay, this is not a game where everyone's going to win. That's just not how it works in the real world. Not everybody is going to win. And a lot of times you might be talking to someone, it might be your friend, it might be someone, your parents introduce you to a real estate agent or something. They will always lie to you because they're out for themselves. They're not always trying to get you the best deal. Now, there are some people who will tell you the truth and they are actually trying to get you the best deal, but majority of people in the world are not because they don't care. Once they take your money, they're going to disappear. So do not believe what people say. When people say their prices are priced, that's not always true. Sometimes it is true, but a lot of times, especially in B2B sales environments, it's not. If you go to a car dealership, for example, they're going to be charging you higher because they're going to see what you're willing to pay. It's not like they put the prices of their website of a new car on their website, right? If you're going to buy a house, they're going to charge higher because they earn a commission. If you're going to buy a B2B sales software, they're always going to charge higher. Trust me, I would know. I used to work at tech sales at Oracle, and my friends worked at Salesforce and all these companies. Everybody does it at the highest levels. It just is what it is. So what you want to do is accept the lies, don't take it personal, and play the game. Now, let me show you how you can play the game like a pro in the simplest way. The first thing you need to understand is fair market price. Whatever it is you're selling or buying, you need to know on average what is the fair market price is for that thing. If you don't know, you're going to lose automatically because you don't even know what to negotiate for. Now, the second step is this. You always want to anchor high or anchor low. So if you're selling something that, let's say, costs $10,000, right? Let's say you're selling a car or software. It doesn't matter what it is, consulting services. If you start at $10,000, they're always going to ask for a discount. You know that. Everybody wants a good deal, right? So they're going to say, $10,000 is a lot. Can we actually do 7? And then somehow you meet in the middle at 8, right? So if you know they're going to negotiate anyways, you might as well go a little bit higher. So if you go to, let's say, 13,000, they're going to be like, 13,000 is kind of a lot. Can we go to 10? So if 10 is the price that you actually wanted, then you have to anchor even higher. It's the same in the reverse. If you're the buyer, you just anchor really low. You're basically lowballing them. You be like, hey man, for something like this, I think $5,000 might make a lot of sense. And they're gonna think, oh wait, that's crazy. We never do $5,000. How about something like 8,000, 7,000? Is that okay with you? But because I anchored low, now I kind of set the frame, right? So whoever anchors first, they do set the frame. Now I'm gonna give you one more advanced technique before you even anchor, and that is you want to get their budget. So I call it ranging, right? So let's say I'm selling something and I want to sell it for $10,000. I'm willing to accept 8, but if I can sell it for 12, 13, 14, I'm still going to do it, right? So instead of anchoring them at, let's say 13 off the bat, I would say, hey, based on everything we're talking about so far, is there a budget you have set aside for something like this? What's that range looking like? Now, when I say it like that, it's a lot more softer and they're going to give me a range, and they will typically say, I was thinking something in the $12,000 or $16,000 range. So when you understand their range, you can anchor them from 12 to 16K. So it's 16, you could be like, that's pretty interesting, because normally we start at $15,000 for our services. So you knowing this information, right? I guess you can shark them and charge the maximum amount and just say hey, it's going to be 16K. Depends how you want to play it, right? If you go a little 15, it might make the conversation easier and you're kind of doing them a favor, right? And maybe they would appreciate that. But anyways, if you anchor them, let's say at 15, they might negotiate 15 to 14 to 13. And then once they do get, let's say, $13,000 and you're willing to accept 8, you're 5K up. So you still win. In their perspective, they felt like they got a really good deal because they're like, oh wow, Patrick charged 15K and now it's 13K. And so I got a steal, right? But they only believe that because of this anchoring. And it's not true. And if you ever buy any type of software or anything expensive in the tens of thousands of dollars, understand this, everybody is doing it. I don't care if it's Facebook, Google, Oracle, any of the large companies, Spotify, even any kind of record deal, everyone is doing this. You have to understand they are lying to you and you just have to play the game. Now, in the negotiation, what ends up happening is somehow you always like meet in the middle, right? But because you anchored high, you're meeting higher than you expected. But still, you still want to win, right? And so I'm going to give you another tip. Every time they try to negotiate price, you want to ask for something in return. So you never really try to discount your prices. You just change the terms of whatever the deal is. For example, if you are selling a 1-year membership into some kind of coaching program, right? And let's say you're charging $10,000, okay? So you say it's 10,000 and they say, I can't do 10,000. I can only do 7. And if they really cannot, do 10 and 7 is all they got, and they're not going to, they're not going to push further, then you have to just reduce the terms of the deal. So instead of 1 year, you might say, okay, if you're going to do 7, then we're going to cut it to 8 months, right? So that might be fair, right? Because you're still winning, right? You still got the sale, but you're not going to discount yourself, because if you do discount too much and everybody knows, then more and more people are going to keep asking for discounts, and it's going to be annoying. But if they know that, hey, they didn't get the same deal as everybody else, then it's fair game. Or if you said, hey, if we're going to cut it down to 7, we're going to have to take out a few one-on-one calls. Let's say you're selling coaching, you're selling a set of like 10 one-on-one calls or something, right? And they might agree, because they might say, oh, okay, if we're not doing 10, we're only doing 7, that makes sense. So you always want to, take something every time they reduce price. Now, an advanced technique is to make it feel like it's very difficult for you to reduce the price. So if you're a sales rep, you would say, I'm not sure if I can do that. Do you mind if I talk it over with my manager? And, the manager might be in on it and be like, yeah, man, let's get this guy. Like, let's, reduce the price, reduce these things, and let's close the deal, right? That's typically how sales teams are ran. Or if you're the founder, right, there's no one above you to ask. You can say, let me talk it over with my team, because they're going to be helping me a lot with this, and see what makes sense. Is that okay with you? And if that's okay with them, then, they're going to go ahead with the deal. But whatever it is, you have to make it difficult for them to get a discount, right? Or reduce price. It's not a discount, right? Because the more they feel the pain of trying to reduce your price, the more believable it is. And again, everyone's lying anyways. That's how you actually secure the deal. And again, like if you want to say, oh, this is manipulative, Patrick is a liar, that's fine. But you have to understand that if I'm a liar, then that means all the companies on the S&P 500 are lying too, right? So, it kind of is what it is. Now, the next one I have for you is going to be extremely powerful in controlling conversations. And that is answering questions with questions. You'll find that when you're in high stakes negotiations, or maybe it's a sales call, prospects and people that you deal with, they always have questions for you. For example, how much does it cost? When am I going to get the results? Do I get a refund? Now, most amateurs are going to directly answer these questions right when the person asks, right? How much does it cost? $10,000. It's too expensive. Bye. The deal is dead. And the reason why the deals die when you directly answer the question is because you're not understanding why they are asking. You need to understand why first before you give a solution. So if somebody said, Patrick, I don't want to waste time. What's the price? Okay. So I would be like, I totally hear what you're saying, man. And I understand. I respect your time, right? So, we definitely will get the price. Now, the thing is, before we actually can get the pricing, I need a better understanding of exactly what we're going to do for you. Because if I give a price to you right now, it's just a random number I'm making up. And I don't think that would be fair. I would rather continue the conversation a little bit more, ask a couple more questions so I know exactly the challenges you have in your business, and see how we can help you with our consulting services. From there, once I know exactly what we're going to do and how much time it's going to take for us to achieve whatever the outcome, then I feel it makes sense to send you the price at that point. How could they say no? And the key to making this work is that number one, you want to make them feel heard, right? Don't just brush over what they said, like really repeat their words to them, summarize what they said so that when you give your reason, it doesn't sound like an excuse. So let's say I ask a couple more questions. I understand his business and problems a little bit more. Then I would ask, okay, well, based on everything we're talking about, to get these problems solved, is there a range or budget you're looking at? So what I've done is I essentially reversed the entire situation. Instead of him asking me like, Patrick, what's the price? I asked him more questions. I understood his business a little bit more. And then I reflected it back on him and said, okay, like based on what we talked about, do you have a budget set aside for something like this? Once he gives me a range, then I can go back to my negotiation tactics, which I just taught you, to anchor him high and then let him get a good deal and close the deal. So instead of answering the question directly, I'm getting more information so that I can get my pricing, so I can have much more precision in how I price in order to make the maximum amount of profit. In other cases, it might be very simple. If they say, Patrick, like, I don't know if it's going to work for me. So instead of me just jumping in saying, oh, it's going to work for you, I can say, okay, I totally hear what you're saying. And I get it. It's definitely a big step for you. Now, I'm just curious, like, what's making you feel like it may not work for you? Because instead of me trying to sell him on the idea of why he should buy my thing, I would rather understand what's holding him back from buying and handle that objection. Because the key to sales is not pushing them into a direction. It's understanding what they really want, understanding the challenges that stop them from getting to their goal, and handling the objections by removing those challenges so that it becomes a clear path to walk to the other side. So that's when people are actually buying, not being sold to. And people love to buy. They just hate being sold to, right? They don't like feeling like a, sleazy salesperson is trying to like trick them into buying something. But when they make the decision themselves and you remove all their obstacles, then it's going to be much easier for them to make a decision. Now, during these conversations where you're trying to persuade somebody, one of the most effective techniques outside of just asking questions is challenging your clients. You want to challenge their way of thinking and you want to show them a whole new world. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned this idea of a nice guy, right? And I said, nice guys finish last, essentially. But why is it that they actually finish last? And I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. To me, a nice guy is somebody that doesn't make it clear to the world what they want. They want to make the sale, but they just don't ask. They want to talk to the pretty girl and ask for her phone number or Instagram, but they just don't go up to her and let them know they're interested. Or maybe they even like the girl, but they get stuck in the friend zone because they're not making it clear what their intentions are. Then they take the girl to dinner and getting some milk tea and all these kinds of things. And then the girl's dating another guy and they get heartbroken and sad because they were a nice guy. They did everything right. How can they go for the asshole when they didn't go for me? It's because they're not making it clear what they want. And the reason they're not making it clear is because they're afraid of the rejection that comes from being bold. Now, to take it even a step further, if you were to challenge your prospect, you might feel a nice guy is definitely not going to challenge their prospect, right? They're going to be so desperate for the deal. They'll just agree to everything. Sure, yeah, I'll lower my prices for you, right? When can we sign? And then the person ghosts them. It's because they lose a lot of respect when they just don't, hold their ground. So to earn a lot of respect with your clients, especially if they're like high level decision makers, is you challenge their framework. You challenge their way of thinking. So if somebody said, hey, Patrick, everything sounds good, but I'm thinking we do this maybe 3 months down the line. If I wanted to challenge them, I would say, okay, I totally get where you're coming from. 3 months, I suppose that makes sense, but I'm actually just curious. Why 3 months? Like, why couldn't you get this taken care of sooner? Because what you were saying at the beginning of the conversation was that this was something this was an immediate problem, and that every day it's unsolved, it's costing you thousands of dollars. So why would you wait 3 months? I'm just a little confused. So in that example, I'm challenging their frame of thinking and I'm letting them know, hey, like, why would you wait so long when you already told me you're losing money? Let's get it done now, right? I'm challenging them to shorten the timeline so that I can close the deal. So let's say I'm selling some kind of AI service, right? AI automation is really hot these days, right? So if you're going to go to a traditional business and you're telling them all about AI, you want to challenge them. You want to say like, hey, look, like you've been doing things a certain way for the last 10 years and it's been working. That's amazing. But I'm curious to know, like, why haven't you guys looked into how to automate your marketing with AI? You would be able to produce 10 times the amount of content just with a couple of tweaks. Like, wouldn't you want to be more competitive in this market? It's either because if you don't, your competitors are going to do it and eventually you're going to be left behind. So I'm basically saying you're going to go out of business if you don't look at things my way. Obviously, I'm not saying it as directly as that, but they're going to feel that. And then they're going to think, that's a very interesting point. Okay, let's see what you got. Let's see the pitch, right? So it continues the conversation. And it's not creating problems. It's not creating conflict when you challenge somebody. If you do it the right way, in an intelligent way, where your intention is to actually help them, they will feel it and they will respect it. So the key to making this work is you want to fight your fear of conflict. Most people, the nice guy, right? If they have like some energy, they're going to direct it toward conflict. And the key is really to lean into the conflict. Let's say you have energy in anything that you do, whether it's to persuade, to sell, or even talk to a pretty girl. You're putting energy into something. And there's going to be a point where there's going to be conflict, potential fear of failure, potential fear of rejection, potential shame of looking stupid. And what most people do is they just run away from all their fears. They just, I can't do this, run away, right? It's that fight or flight mentality. Now, obviously, we're not fighting. It's just we have to rewire our brains to understand it's not that big of a deal. So instead of running away from our fears, we want to lean into the conflict and we want to just break through these fears. And this is, in my opinion, what it means to have courage, to do the thing that you know you should do even though you're afraid. And once you fight this fear and you have more courage and confidence in yourself, you'll find that all these things you were afraid of were not that big of a deal to begin with. And the beautiful part of challenging someone's framework and way of thinking is that by the end of it, your argument or case is going to be so logical and emotional that they will actually believe they came to the conclusion on their own. That, again, it's repeating the theme of getting people to buy, getting them excited to buy something, right? It's kind of like when you buy a new MacBook. It's not like you felt like a salesperson sold it to you, okay? It's like you're excited. You're like, oh my God, I love this MacBook. I'm going to get so much work done on this thing. It's going to be a beast. And it's like you even open the box the way it opens, like that really slow opening unboxing experience. It's like you're just so excited to buy. But from Apple's perspective, their profit margin's high. They're making a ton of money on you, and they're going to make a bunch of money on the software that you buy on your Mac, right? And so excellent persuasion and sales ability allow people to become buyers and get them and really makes them feel like they made the decision on their own, not that they were sold to and forced into something that they are going to regret. Now, this next one is going to be extremely powerful if you're interested in getting people to buy on their own, and that is to sell identity. So the most powerful way to sell products and services is understanding that people don't really buy products and services. What they do buy is a better version of themselves. So if you look at Nike, for example, what are they selling? They're selling the idea that you are this athlete, right? You are constantly training and improving and becoming a more better, disciplined, aspirational version of yourself. If you look at, on the other end of the spectrum, Razer, which is a gaming company that makes peripherals or hardware like mice, gaming mices, headphones, keyboards, and people are just sitting on their computers playing games all day. They're not even moving, right? But the way they market it is for gamers, by gamers. This is what you need to use if you want to be elite, right? And the products are good. I've used some of it myself, right? But the way they market it is to get people to feel an emotion like, I am a gamer, I need to buy gaming equipment. I am a trainer, I'm a runner, I need to buy Nike. And Rolex is a really powerful example as well. It's basically a signal of status. I have made it. I am successful. I need to buy Rolex to let everybody know how successful I am. So all these brands, they are selling identity in some form or another. Even if you're selling a coaching program, you can also do the same thing. I have a program called Founder X, and I am selling to founders. People who identify as being a founder gravitate to my stuff. Why? It's because being a founder is hard. You go through a lot of difficulty. And when you meet other entrepreneurs, there's this connection compared to if you were just talking to employees, right? It's just a different experience. One is not better than the other. It's just different. So whatever it is you're selling, ask yourself, are you selling an identity that people can emotionally attach with? And I'll tell you this, if someone's hesitant to buy, you want to use this perceived identity they have in their head against them. So if someone is an athlete and they're like, I don't know if I want to buy your coaching program on how to train like a hybrid athlete, for example. Well, what you would do is you would say like, okay, well, that's really interesting because based on everything you were telling me, you seem like someone that has a clear path to be, a very high performer in this kind of field. And, you're already training on your own. And I'm just curious, like, why wouldn't you want to be better at this and to become the best version of yourself, really? If I said that to somebody who has the idea that I am always becoming the best version of myself, but I use that identity against them and make the claim that, hey, if they don't buy the program for me to coach them on how to become a hybrid athlete, are they really trying to become the best version of themselves, or are they just making excuses? And they might feel, man, I'm making excuses. You know what, Patrick, let's get it going. It's as simple as that. Take the identity that they have in their minds, align your product and services to that identity so they can stay consistent with what they think they are. And now, if they're still giving you trouble, I have another powerful technique for you, and that is to push them away. So in life, business, relationships, people can always feel your neediness. And the trick, so the more you want something, the further it gets away from you, right? But the further you push something away, the harder it swings back, almost like a boomerang. So what's the technique to actually push people away? So let's say someone's like on the fence of buying and they're not really sure. I could say something like, hey, look, I can actually only handle 5 clients at a time. And the reason is because me and my team, we're more of a boutique agency. We work very closely with clients to make sure that they get the results. And you've seen some of the stuff I've done. So in order for you to, for us to really work together, right, I'm actually going to need a decision by the end of the week, because I actually have 2 other guys that are, very close to signing. But, to be between you and I would rather work with you. So yeah, if you can let me know by the end of the week, then we can get that going. But if not, it's totally fine. So what am I doing? I'm basically letting them know that other people are interested in me. I'm pushing them away. It's okay if they don't work with me. I got these other guys, but I want to work with them, right? Is that true or not? Who knows? And they're going to feel like, he actually doesn't even need me. So you know what? I'm just going to go for it. So let's say in another scenario where someone's super eager to buy, they're like, yeah, Patrick, let's get going. I want to join the program right now. Hey, look, let's take a couple steps back. I can see your enthusiasm. I like it. That's the right energy you need to have. But before we actually move forward, I actually need to make sure without any uncertainty that this is actually for you, because the last thing I want to do is take your money and for you not to get a result, right? So how about I kind of learn more about your exact situation, what your goals are, what your challenges are. And then from there, if it makes sense to work together, 100%, let's do it. But if not, then, I'll let you know. Is that cool? So from the other person's perspective, they're like, man, I really want to work with Patrick, but he's actually pushing me away and making it harder for me to buy because he wants to know more about me to make sure I can get the result. This guy's amazing, right? So the more you push, the more they come back, especially if they want to buy. And that actually increases the likelihood that they do buy. If you are just like, you want to buy right now? Sign right here. It just feels kind of weird, right? So instead of getting overly excited when somebody wants to buy, make sure that they're the right fit. You'll find that they will have a much better experience after they make the purchase because their mindset will feel like, wow, Patrick's actually taking care of me. All right. And now when you actually do want to close, I'm going to show you the easiest way to close like a pro. Now, the problems most nice guys have and people that aren't so good at sales have is really, they don't go for the close. So the prospect at the end is like, I'll think about it. And then they'll be like, okay, well, yeah, text me, let me know. And then they never hear back. It's because they didn't ask for what they wanted because they're afraid of the conflict. So instead of being afraid, I'm going to show you how to close like a pro. Here's how we do it. At the end of the presentation, after everything's said and done, you handle all the objections. You say, hey, John, we talked about everything so far. It looks like it's going to be a really good fit. And, I would love to work with you. Now, just curious, is there anything else you need to see before moving forward? So that's going to be number 1, my soft close. Then from there, John's going to be like, I do want to move forward, but I have these problems, or I'm not sure about this. So step number 2 is handle those objections, right? Easy. So after you handle all these objections, you ask them again. So another soft close. Okay, so now that we covered timing and budget and all those things, is there anything else you need to see before moving forward? If they do have more objections, you handle those again. And then you ask again, is there anything else you need to see before moving forward? And finally, you will get to a point where John or whoever it is will say, nope, that's everything I need. I'm ready to go. So once they're ready to go, you will say, okay, great. Well, since you're ready to go, how about we go ahead and get started? Is that going to be Visa or MasterCard? So this works more for B2C, where it's like they're good to go. The call is really just to make sure it's a fit, and you just ask for the credit card right there. And then they'll say, oh yeah, Visa's cool. Then you send them the link and they pay, and the deal is done. Now, in the B2B environment, a lot of times people don't just pay, with a credit card on that call, right? Sometimes it's a business, they got to go through approval processes and all these things, right? So what you would do instead is like, okay, great. Well, in order to get this deal done, what needs to happen on your side to make it happen? So you just basically understand their sales, their buying process. They will tell you what happens. They'll say, I need to talk to this guy, the accountant, whatever, and then we're ready to go, right? And then you just set a firm future commitment for whatever happens next. Okay, great. So once you do talk with them, and that's going to be tomorrow, right? Yeah, tomorrow. Okay, cool. So how about this? Let's set up a call for the end of the day tomorrow. So once you get that taken care of, I'll get you on the line, and then we can go ahead and do payment and make sure everything's cool. And then I'll stay on the line with you once that payment is made so that everything just works out smoothly. Is that okay with you? Yeah, sounds good, Patrick. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and send you a calendar invite for 4 p.m. tomorrow. Did you get it? Okay. Yeah, I see it in my calendar right now. Okay, great. So I'll talk to you then. So that's pretty much done, right? And then on the next call, they send the payment and the deal's done. But the most important thing when closing more B2B deals is having a firm future commitment, knowing what's going to happen next so that you can actually get the deal done. And so now you have some of the most powerful psychological dark sales techniques that you can use to manipulate others, persuade others, or even just become a better seller. And what you'll realize is they're not really that dark. These are just human psychological techniques you can use to get what you want. Whether it's dark or not really depends on your intention. So with great power comes great responsibility.